But there's also something that I particularly found super interesting, which is how diverse your own LP base is. And if I kind of open up the kimono a bit and share with you like something that I am thinking about more and more with our own investing activity is, are we attracting diverse investors to invest with us? Yes, no. Well, the answer is actually, I think, not enough yet. And so how can we do better? How can we attract more diverse profiles to invest with us? And so you have an amazing accolade, in my opinion, which is, if I have the number right, roughly 3/4 of your LPs are female, which is amazing. So I'd love to ask you a very, very kind of concrete question there. How did you succeed in doing that? How did that come to be? And any lessons you can share with us there?
When you look at our individual LPs, 70% of them are women, and actually we always talk about how do we get more men interested in this topic. So the exact opposite, and the first movers among the men are the men who have daughters, and especially those who have daughters who study technical subjects at university and who are entrepreneurial. They're really interested in understanding, how can we move the needle in innovation invented by women or by diverse teams. But on the female LPs, what we did is we thought, if you look at I'm talking about the individual LPs. So we know that people who want to invest in venture are people who, most of the time, who have sold their own business. They are the ones who have that risk appetite for venture. What we've done long ago, even before we built the fund, is we have started a community with women who are building large businesses and who in the end are building those businesses to sell them. Many of those women have built businesses without venture capital. So already, if you look to people who are building businesses, many of them are building businesses without venture capital and based on their cash flow or with a bank loan or what have you. But when they sell their business, they are the ones who have that risk appetite for venture. But it's very new for a lot of women. Most of the time, they are in a network, not with other women who are in venture. So for them, it's really the first or the second fund that are investing in. So we've really built that community among women who have built their own company, who have sold that company, and then are thinking, okay, how am I going to invest my money, and how am I going to invest in the next generation? And we've been quite careful in building that community. It's called the Next Women 100. And these are women who are, who are going through the motions of a small company to a larger company to, in the end, selling their business, whether to private equity or to a strategic party. But so those are the women that we have built a community with. The second layer of women are the women in finance that we saw. These are women who might have run a bank, or they might have been really senior in some financial institution, and who understands the risk appetite which goes with venture. And that's also a group that we've had been connected with, that we've networked with.
Was that intentional, or was that a happenstance?
Well, when I sold my business, I started to do this capacity building for entrepreneurs. We started to group those people, entrepreneurs, people in finance, and we soon saw also that the hurdles of entrepreneurs is access to finance. And going with access to finance, we created a network where not only you have the entrepreneurs, but you also have the people who finance those entrepreneurs. So it was intentional in that respect. The when I started the fund, Borski Fund, I really needed an anchor investor, and that was quite hard in the beginning, because we knew that if we want to build this fund and we want to have a 50 million fund, then your first close needs to be quite high. With 75 female LPs, many of them for whom it was the first fund, they would not be able to be that cushion for the first fund. So my first visit was to London, to 𝗕cie𝗿𝗆. They just had released their report on the status of Europe in finance, and one of their conclusions was that the percentage of funding to female entrepreneurs was below the 2%. So I thought, this is a real great opportunity for them then to invest in diversity. I was really too early.
You were too early with 𝗕cie𝗿𝗆 there?
No, well, we in the end they didn't invest in us at the time, because they didn't even they had the report, but they didn't think about investing in diversity, and they didn't have that investment thesis yet. And I had the investment thesis, and they were like, "Yeah, I know, we this was our conclusion, but we never thought about doing something about it ourselves." And I said, "But you can be our anchor investor, and then and then and then we can start. We have the first fund in Europe, and you be the anchor investor." But they said, "Well, we don't have that investor thesis now." Now they have one, but that was after our final close. Uh, uh, so I know that they are investing in Ada Ventures, and there are a couple of others, because in the end, they had that investor thesis, but at the time they didn't have it yet. So I was really early, but at least I'm very happy that they have that thesis. So I hope I can get back to them with my second fund.
I am starting, so a year ago and 1.5 or 2 years ago, I felt that we had a really good wave going on. Whenever you set something about doing something focused on women in venture, you'd always receive good, backing for it. Many people would want to be involved in this space and so on. Lastly, I think the last 6 months or so, I kind of feel like I've been getting more reactions that point in the direction of, but is there enough in that? Isn't it? Don't we have enough doing conferences in that space? Don't we have enough doing media for that space? Don't we have enough funds now that are women focused and so on? What's your take on that? Because it has come as a surprise to me the last 6 months, really, that it kind of feels like some people have become saturated.
I totally get that, because the narrative, we are also had there are quite a few funds in the US who started also with small funds, and then with pivotal ventures of Melinda Gates. I wish we had a Melinda Gates in Europe. They really were able to make that second step. But if you look at the numbers are not great. So it could very well be that there are more people who understand it. So so awareness is quite high, that we need to have more innovation focused on women, that we need to focus on women's health. But if you look to the numbers, we are really in the beginning of investing in that space. And so it is true. So we are always talking about what should the narrative be. Let's not talk about investing in female entrepreneurs, but let's talk about investing in female innovation, or let's talk about that our own portfolio is AI driven and it's data driven, and that we like diverse teams, something like that. So the narrative is always something that you need to, it's a marathon, so you need to stay the course. But sometimes, in order to convince people, you also should show the other sides of your thesis, which could be technology, AI, data, hardware, software, what have you.
That's also what I'm seeing more pivoting towards, because it's been too much of a focal point of everyone. I think that's a smart move for many of the VCs that are building in this space. I have one quick question I want to ask you, and that is if you believe that there's something that exists that might be called like a media to reality gap, meaning that there's so much media about this problem, and every time someone does something concrete about this space, it's very quickly very publicized. But on the other hand, fact of the matter is that the 2% mark is not really changing. And I'm wondering if are we doing ourselves a disservice with bringing so much light on the successful entrepreneurs and the successful VC funds being raised for this space, so that people get complacent because they think that, well, now it must be solved, or now, okay, we're hearing enough about it, so I don't think we need more of that. Do you think that there's something to that, or not? I've just been wondering, as a
Well, it's true that that you don't want something to be a hype, because even hype need persistence. Everything what is hyped, it's if you look to what is it, automated driving, or if you look to eating less meat, or the metaverse, it seems like, oh, this is going really well and everybody's onto it, and still you need that persistence and that sort of marathon view. So you need to you need to have it on top of mind always. I mean, so our last investor which came into our fund was Visa Foundation, and they are a US investor, and they wanted to invest in a European fund, and they wanted to invest in diversity. And for us, it is really a game changer as well, because it's for us a US investor who came in. It's an institutional investor who requires even more data to build their case. And but it's still the only foundation in out of the US who is investing in diversity in Europe. So in that respect, we must show that it's a success. But yeah, they're still the only one, and it's the same as the European Investment Fund. They have a report now that it's really important that diversity should be a driver of some of their decisions in where they invest in their fund-to-fund strategy. But now they also need to execute it. And so we really should make a difference between awareness, strategy, and execution. We know that our own entrepreneurs need to do that as well. They can have a great strategy, but they still need to execute it. And we are still in the execution phase. So maybe we should tell that their audience a little bit more.